I want to explain two reasons why I'm still holding HBAR, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, the first reason why is because $3, it hasn't left my mind, even though sometimes people like to say, but $3 is around a 12x from here. Who cares? Well, the way you take a look at it is this. If Ethereum went to 10 grand from right now, that's less than a 3x from here. If Bitcoin went to 300 grand, it's also less than a 3x from here. To me, even though I cannot speak on anyone's behalf, and even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything when it comes to HBAR, that maybe idea of less than a 3x doesn't necessarily excite me, but again, this is just my perspective. And again, if I consider how much HBAR has done historically ever since I started talking about it, doing maybe hypothetically like a 12x from here, given what it's already done, I think I wouldn't find that disappointing. This is just my perspective. But even beyond that, sometimes people like to say, but there's this microcap that could do this or do that. I'm totally aware that, of course, due to HBAR's market cap, which is pretty massive right now, it just doesn't have that ability to do maybe what a microcap could do in terms of hypothetical percentage price increase. I'm totally aware of that. And this is assuming, let's say, there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle. However, even though I'm aware that, I don't necessarily want to really believe in a microcap anyways, because that's not what I'm looking for. However, I'm not looking for something with a very massive market cap either. Again, HBAR is pretty massive. However, it's nowhere near to the point of even being anywhere close to like an Ethereum or like a Bitcoin. So it's a good balance in between for me, and this is what I'm looking for. Again, it's going to depend on a case-by-case basis, but this is just my outlook. However, to me, again, $3 market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 127 billion, which, it doesn't seem like maybe too ridiculous to me either, because if I see something like Dogecoin reaching over $80 billion in market cap back in 2021, this market cap maybe doesn't seem that ridiculous to me, but again, this is just my perspective, and this is because I also have to consider the fundamentals of Hedera, which I think is actually pretty interesting, at least in my perspective, and this brings me to my second reason as to why I'm still holding HBAR, and that is because I just like Hedera's fundamentals. I think it's so unique. I think it's so different. Other projects out there, they use traditional blockchain technology, at least, a lot of them that I do see. There's nothing wrong with that, but Hedera brings a new approach, right? If we take a look at Hedera Hashgraph, it uses something called a directed acyclic graph, which, for instance, per transaction average, Hedera consumes less energy than something like Solana, Avalanche, Ethereum, and again, there's many more, but I'm just highlighting a few there. I think that's very impressive. Hedera's native services can reliably scale up to 10,000 transactions per second and even beyond. So in terms of scalability, I like that aspect as well. However, I think the cherry on top for me is that Hedera's governing council is, I think, really what's so impressive, at least in my perspective. I see something like Dell Technologies be part of the Hedera governing council. I take a look at something like Mondelez, right? Mondelez is pretty popular. Even one of their brands do include Oreo. Also on top of that, something like Google is part of the Hedera governing council. So I just overall like Hedera. Granted, sometimes you like to say, oh, but the adoption isn't the best. I'm totally aware of that because it is unique, it is different. And even though I understand that, again, the adoption isn't necessarily the best, I just like the concept behind it nonetheless. Like something that doesn't have good adoption right now, it doesn't mean it might stay the same, 10, 15 years later, it might be different, Even just a couple years later, it might be different. So this is why I'm still excited, I'm still staying patient. Whenever the altcoin season, if ever during this cycle decides to wake up, be it maybe like next month or even all the way up until the end of Q1 of 2026, whenever that timeline is, it's going to be beyond my control. But the only thing that I can control in this situation is myself, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting with the projects that I do like. And that's pretty much about it. It's just a waiting game for me, but I kind of knew that getting into it because by dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting, I knew there was going to be a lot of waiting involved. And that right there is what I'm going to continue to do. I did that with HBAR initially, before it had that, pretty good recent rally, right? And I'm still going to do it right now. And we'll have to wait and see, but I'm just staying patient. But that right there are two reasons why I'm still holding HBAR. and feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.